Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the webinar. You have joined us this morning on February the 13th, 2013, the day before Valentine's Day, and you are tuned into Beyond Chocolate, 3 Valentine's Essentials for Couples. And we want to welcome you today to the webinar being presented to you by the Center for Christian Life Enrichment. And our speaker today is Rich Blue. Before we get started, I want to tell you a little bit about the webinar this morning. This is your first time on a webinar. We'll have all the attendees on mute. If you do have any questions, please use the question field in the GoToWebinar panel. That way we can respond to any questions that you have. And if you're listening to this on recording, feel free to email us after you've listened to the recording with any questions or comments that you might have. A little bit about our center. We're located in the northern suburbs of Chicago and have over 55 years of experience between our 6 therapists. We're an emotionally focused counseling practice, and we blend the cutting edge of psychology and Christian principles together in our approach. And today's presenter, Rich Blue, has been in practice for over 25 years in the North Shore area. He's the founder and clinical director of both the Center for Christian Life Enrichment as well as Second Order Ministries. He's been ordained and trained in the Full Gospel Fellowship and has worked in the past for Campus Crusade for Christ. And at this time, I'm going to turn the broadcast over to Rich, and he's going to tell you that there may be more to intimacy beyond chocolate.
Well, good morning. Glad to be with all of you. We're excited to have this opportunity to talk about how we can express our love more genuinely and intimately to one another. So, how often do you feel the pressure to want to give somebody that you love just the right gift? Some of you might, like me, were trained by our parents to do almost everything from writing thank you notes to giving gifts. For me, one of the basic lessons that my mom emphasized was give a gift that you would like to receive. Now, this is common advice. However, many of us have tried this and realized that it wasn't all that we needed to hear. It tended to be a bit narcissistic. I remember the time when I gave my wife one of the best irons on the market for Christmas. I know many of you are shuddering. I thought it was fantastic, much like a tool given my background as a carpenter. In fact, I still even remember the make of the iron. It was a Rowenta, and I was so excited and anticipating her delight. However, after she had opened her gift, it was immediately apparent that this was not what she was excited about. She told me in no uncertain terms that if I ever gave her anything with a plug on it in the future, that she would cut it off. So, intimate relationships, these are something that are a challenge for all of us. And we're really looking at what do we really want and need? What do we want from each other? And what do you want to receive from those that you love and care about? So, what intimacy is not? I think we recognize this intimacy is not all that it's hyped up to be. That we are bombarded constantly with on TV and with movies. Intimacy is not gifts. It's not flowers. It's not romantic getaways. But what is it? Well, if you look on the slide, you'll see in front of you from Wiki a little definition that I thought we could begin with. It generally refers to the feeling of being in a close personal association and belonging together. It's familiar and very close affective connection with one another as a result of a bond that is formed through knowledge and experience of the other one. Genuine intimacy in human relationships requires dialogue, transparency, vulnerability, and reciprocity. The verb intimate means to state or make known. Now, when I think of intimacy, often my mind goes back to the Garden of Eden when Adam and Eve and God were walking around in the garden, and it says that they were naked and unashamed. And so the state of being unconditionally accepted and absolutely open are critical components of intimacy. Richard Rohr, a Christian mystic, says this: intimacy could be described as our capacity for closeness and tenderness towards things. It is often revealed in the moment of a risky self disclosure. Intimacy lets itself out and lets the other in. It makes all love possible, and yet it also reveals your utter incapacity to love back as the others deserve. When we use terms like love and we use terms like intimacy, these are very expansive terms that often are very humbling when we really begin to think about it. When I think of intimacy, I think of it as a here and now experience that involves the expression of emotions. It involves authenticity or genuineness. It involves immediacy, truth, and vulnerability. So let's look at Gary Chapman and talks about in his book Love Languages. Has as a pastor, what he discovered in counseling many couples is that there are different channels or ways that love is expressed. And he described five fundamental languages: um, words of affirmation, acts of service, receiving gifts, quality time, and physical touch. Now, what I want you to think about as you're thinking about this is, what is your primary channel? What would be the language through which you would most powerfully or consistently feel loved, feel seen, feel known? Would it be words of affirmation? For some, it's just that they just love being around people who encourage them and see them and support them. Acts of service are people who may not care as much what you say. They're interested in, what are you doing? Do you know what I want, and do you serve me in that way? Receiving gifts. Many of you, your primary love language are just those very thoughtful, timely gifts that are given that warm your heart. For others, quality time is what it all gets down to, is that if you spend time with me and you make me a priority on your schedule and you give me that quality attention, that I feel completely loved. And for others, physical touch is the answer. They want, without touch, you could have make all the time, you could give wonderful gifts, you could serve them in many ways, and even affirm them, and they're not going to feel it as powerfully as they might. What can you know is guaranteed to be a blessing to the one you love? Well, as Gary Chapman pointed out, if you have a basic understanding of a love language, that's a good start to be able to understand what someone's primary channel would be. But understand that each of those specific aspects or expressions of love are meaningful to all of us. It's just some get the message through more clearly. It is a risk to give what you would like or try and anticipate what you would want and need. It's risky to try to read somebody's mind, but a surefire gift is an authentic and heartfelt experience of relationship with you. It is you being you and you seeing them. So in preparing for this talk, I went back in my days to remember the Who and that song that we all are pretty familiar with, heard many times, I'm sure. To see me, feel me, touch me, heal me. Now I'm doing you a favor by not singing to you, but my associate Andrew, I think, would love it if I just gave a few bars on that, but I will spare that today. But when you go back into and you think about real powerful expressions of love, we think about these basic things of being seen, within a sense of having an experience where you get me, you feel me, you touch me. And there's a way in intimacy when we're in close relationships where we feel like people actually heal us or complete us. So, what we want to focus on today, thinking of this, kind of Valentine's Day gift that's a surefire thing, is we want to tap into our understanding of core hungers or core yearnings. Now, on your screen, what you'll see, I have gotten from Judith Wright. Doctors Bob and Judith Wright have just written another one of their best selling books titled Transformed. And in this, they talk about identifying some of our core hungers and see them on the screen: to matter, to love and be loved, to be seen, to contribute, to connect, to belong, to achieve mastery, to be affirmed, to connect with a higher power. And one of the things that is very critical to understand about yearnings is that though there's just a handful of yearnings in our life, that when you begin connecting with another person, and helping them to experience one of their core hungers, you cannot go wrong. It doesn't seem in our life that it matters so much which hunger, which yearning is being met, but it matters that someone is tapping into them. So this is just a sort of a beginning list of some of the basic ones. But then one of the things that helps me when I say yearnings or hungering or something like that, a lot of times it's a little bit tricky for me because I need some help trying to identify, what those actually are. And so I use feelings. Now at CLE, we use SACHE as an acronym to help us remember what some of the basic families of feelings are. Sad, angry, scared are the painful feelings, and I add into that hurt, and happy, excited, and tender. When you think about tender, tender would be sort of the family name we've given to include feelings like love. And happy and excited would be expressed, more commonly probably by the experience of joy. And one of the things that you want to recognize is that when you understand and feel and experience your emotions will signal to you what your yearning is, what your core hunger. So for instance, if I was feeling sad, I my core hunger would I would want to be seen, I would want to be known, I would want to be comforted, I would want someone to join me. If I'm afraid, fear would signal to me that I want to feel safe. I want to feel like things are going to be okay. So, your feelings allow you, in the experience or in the expression of intimacy, to be able to connect meaningfully with yourself and then to give of yourself in an experience with another person. So, one of the things that I visualize is I try to connect with myself, use my feelings to identify what my core yearning is, what my deepest hunger is, and then share that experience with you. And I want to be able to try to identify and facilitate you being able to understand what it is your deepest needs. When I can find those, I'm going to be able to connect with you in the most meaningful way that is going to result in an intimate connection. What are our core hungers? Well, these are represented in what we would call in the field of psychology attachment needs. Now, there was a time when we believed that our attachment needs were something that just children needed, and especially even at their earliest ages. We recognize now that we spend our life, both children, young adults, and adults, seeking to get these same attachment needs met. Meeting these needs is our core life fuel, what every human being needs at their core. Bob Wright, a friend and mentor of mine, summarizes the five aspects of attachment needs as the need to be accurately seen in the here and now with positive regard, consistently and unconditionally. Now, parents, you recognize that this is the essence of good parenting. Every kid wants to be seen. They want you there present with them in the here and now. They don't want you checked out. They want you seeing them with positive regard. What that means is you see them as representing themselves, created in the image of God, a human being with massive potential, and that you believe in that individual. You positively see them as being capable and able to live life, to get their needs met, and to live meaningfully. And then consistency is very important, and the concept of unconditional love and acceptance. This is something that's core to all of us. So, the big three gifts of attachment and yearning. What I'm proposing you today, that in addition to a gift or a card, a dinner, romantic candlelights, whatever it is, in addition to that, that you would focus on these three things. Give the gift of being heard. We all want to be heard. We want you to hear me. Our desire to be heard represents a yearning to be acknowledged, to be understood, to be affirmed, and to have a sense that we matter. Hearing someone involves intention. It needs to be a focused intent to be able to really hear what you're saying, both verbally and non verbally, consciously and unconsciously. It involves making and taking time, it involves listening attentively. We listen with our eyes, with our face, with our body. Often in counseling, we're trained about to notice our body posture. We listen with our ears. We listen with our heart. We're also listening for what people are not saying and using that as an opportunity to draw them out. We reflect back to them what they're saying along with what they are feeling. Check it out. So remember that the core of this gift is your intention. Is my intent here to hear you, to get what you have to say? I am more interested in hearing you than I am saying what I want to say. Now, if you're like me, I can mean well with that, but that is a lot more difficult to actually do and deliver on than it is uh, to actually follow through on. So, just the very intent that you go into a transaction or an interaction with one of the people that you love the most, just today, focus on giving them the experience of being heard and finding out through listening to them what is it that they are yearning for today in this moment. Is it to be seen? Is it to be heard? Is it to be comforted? Is it to be affirmed that they matter? Find out what that is and give that to them. The second the second tip is to be seen. We want you to see me. We want to see and be seen. The yearning here is for affirmation, understanding, and attention. We all have this. We do not outgrow it. And we work very hard here at the Center for Christian Life Enrichment to empower people to take responsibility for being seen. We have assignments that say, that involve training people to overcome many of the prohibitions that preclude us from from asking for attention directly, for bragging and being excited about what we're doing or what we want, and empowering people to do that. But now here, what we're saying is, what I'm suggesting to you is one of the greatest gifts that you could give someone today or tomorrow on Valentine's Day or any time is the intention to see them. First, you want to see them as whole and complete. Even when they're struggling or going through a hard time, don't make the mistake of confusing that with them being inadequate or incapable of getting the support or the resources they need to live the life that God intended each of us to live. You want to see all of who they are, not just what they're saying or what they might be doing, but we want to be seen in our innermost beings. And for many of us, that's not as easy to do as it is, to experience. We want to see a person's highest self. Who are they when they are living their life to the highest? And beginning to recognize when you are talking with someone and being with them, are you envisioning in your mind them being their most Christ like, radiant self? And imagining them, believing in them, seeing them come to that, especially if they're in a stage where they're struggling. you know it's so important. Many of us, like me, helpers, often find our identity in helping other people. So when I was younger, at times I was not as prone to want to really believe that someone with just my presence could help themselves, because I wanted to feel needed in that. But this is the place where we go to each person, holding them in positive regard, seeing them and who they can be, and trusting and believing that they can overcome whatever challenges they are. Reflecting back to other people what they feel and what they think. We want to be very careful to be responsible with our projections. Oftentimes, we think that we see people when actually what we're doing is seeing ourselves. You want to communicate that you get to them. You get them. Now, think of a time. I want to go back to both the hearing and the seeing. And just picture, who in your mind do you feel most loved by, that just hears you, accepts you, and sees you? Think of who you picture. Think of the different ways that you feel when you're with them. There's that warmth of affirmation, that sense of acceptance, the sense that this person gets me, they understand me. It's what it's like when you can communicate to someone and you both just share the same language, the same dialect, you share life's experiences. These are very, very powerful gifts that you can never go wrong with. So the last one is to touch and be touched. Touch is such a powerful force in our society today. Now, unfortunately, touch has been sort of relegated to sex in many situations where we are constantly bombarded with the misapplication of this principle of just wanting safe, affectionate touch. It's not There's nothing wrong with sexual touch. It's a beautiful experience and very powerful in its own right. But our skin is our largest organ. It's something that we are hardwired into our body to be connect with each other, to touch and be touched. Take the initiative to touch those that you love, connect with them. Think of a touch of a parent giving to a child. It's touch that's giving, not taking. There are people, think about when they hug you or whatever, sometimes it feels like a very mutual exchange. Other times it feels kind of creepy, like someone has taken something from you. But think about these gifts. You hear someone, you see them, and you touch them. Do you get this? Does not take a lot of time. What it takes is intention, to touch them in a way that they feel warmly attended to. They feel that they matter. You want to touch them both physically and emotionally, sharing from your heart, being in your feelings. And that there's a big difference between just simple affection, for instance, and foreplay. Many women that I talk to and see, part of the whole touch component in their relationships is complicated because they often feel that the touch, even affectionate touch, that there's a hidden expectation that it's going to end up in the bedroom. Don't do that this time, guys. If depending on where you stand in this, either whoever's the toucher, just remember that this touch is an unconditional gift, a gift with no strings, and it may involve you learning what they feel most comfortable with. So here is my challenge for you today, to take these just little reminders of things that I think we all have heard before and know is true, and think today, who is it that you are going to bless over the next couple days, over this season of Valentine's love and concern, where you are going to hear them, you're going to see them, and you're going to touch them. And also, I want you to think about people that you can be asking for this from, that you are in relationship with, so that we both, we're heard and we hear, we're seen, we see, we're touched, and we touch other people. So upcoming activities for us happening at CLE, we are going to this weekend, we are going to be getting away as a group of couples on February 16th through the 18th. We have our couples retreat. um, we're going to have our running and walking club is going to be meeting Saturday morning, March 2nd. And then next Wednesday, March 13th, Andrew Mercer is going to be delivering a webinar, and he is going to be working on how to be involved in how to more effectively and powerfully use the skills of communication to deepen your relationships and the meaningfulness of that for you. The title of that talk is going to be Communication That Counts. So we really thank you for joining us today. We would love to, get some feedback from you and interact with you in any way we can. On this slide, you see where you can contact me at 847-272-3684 extension 140, or email me at rich.blue@cle.us.com. For some of you that have never experienced counseling or support with us at the Center for Christian Life Enrichment, we'd love to offer you a complimentary 30-minute consultation. Just give us a shout and we will get back to you and set that up. We have all kinds of resources on our website at www.cle.us.com. You can see on that we have blogs. My blogs is outoftheblue.blog.us, where you can look at that and join us on Facebook, LinkedIn, wherever it is. But thanks again. Enjoyed being with you. Have a wonderful Valentine's Day, and we'll look forward to seeing you next time at our next webinar.